Welcome to the Salt Circle Podcast. My name is Hank. With me today is Ben.
Hey.
Sup?
The huge, as you do.
Totes huge.
Totes huge. Oh boy. Some boomer just threw up a little bit, and they don't know why.
I think everyone threw up a little bit. I don't think me saying that is okay with anybody.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's a pretty disgusting phrase you just opened with for this. Really sets the tone.
Well, I mean, I've been having a horrific experiences in the video game I've been playing, so it's all about poop.
Yeah, I've seen some of your tweets, and they're looking a little spicy. Not gonna lie.
Dragon Quest Builders 2 is a wild time, but today we're here to talk about old shit.
Yeah,
Not fresh.
Stuff that was also disturbing, probably more so to the people of the time.
Yes. No. We'll get into that. The most egregious thing is the part where you have to have the psychologist come in and explain the movie to the audience at the end.
Yeah. Yep. It's good stuff. We're talking about Hitchcock. Well, four Hitchcock films. Not Will Smith Hitchcock. Different.
No, not that movie.
Hitchcock of the Alfred variety.
Older movies.
Yeah. Because it's our old movie month.
Yeah, old movie month.
Yeah. Sort of. From a certain point of view.
It's our old movie excursion.
Yeah, that sounds
Enterprise.
Better. I mean, I guess, aside from Psycho, really no knowledge of Alfred Hitchcock, aside from the fact that, he's... He's deep enough into, popular culture that I recognize, his cameos. I could see when it was him. I know what he looks like. I know his name. I know he did Psycho.
Yeah.
He really likes
a lot of the trailers for his movies were him just explaining the plot to the audience.
Oh, that's great.
The premise.
That dude's
he
fucked
had that
up.
TV show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Was it also fucked up?
Probably. It was just short stories, basically.
Okay.
Short thriller stories.
I don't know, man. I was expecting... I knew Psycho, of course. Not the intricacies of the plot, actually, but, enough. I was expecting
that's
the other
one that you knew of from popular culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that shower scene, right? That's
pretty famous.
Yeah. I didn't expect the other movies to be as maybe not equally, but they're all fucked up. Everybody's psycho, really. I was expecting not that. It was good, sort of, sometimes. I will,
I mean, people aren't that fucked up in North by Northwest.
No, that one's not. That's the least.
Yeah.
There's not as many mental issues in that one, certainly. Though that one pissed me off the most, but we can...
Wow.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
For some reasons. I think my favorite out of all of them was Rope. I suppose we should say which ones we looked at. We looked at Rope. We looked at Strangers on a Train. What was the North by Northwest?
Yes.
Okay, I knew it had Northwest in it, but and then Psycho, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Rope really stole the show for me.
Rope is fucking great.
It was very good. Literally had never heard of it in my entire life.
Yeah. So Rope is one I watched mostly after me and my friends watched it after learning the fact that it's basically one take or it's one continuous shot. Like limitations of the time, it's not that because they only have so much film and it can fit in a camera, so it cuts usually by like zooming into someone's back.
Yeah.
But other than that, the whole movie it's set. It's much more like it's play like in that it's one continuous take on the actors who have to act for extended periods of time without breaks.
Yes.
So, funnily enough, when they made this movie, it was like they had to shoot it a lot of times. They had to shoot for like 8 days, and
yeah.
for this movie, that means that like 7 days of footage they couldn't do, and then they had to do reshoots too.
So I
had to put it on a bunch.
I read a little bit, not Alfred Hitchcock's Wikipedia page, but like for Psycho, just because I knew that one had like a lot of iconic shit in it. Just was like brushing up. I mean, I looked at all the films because it's been a while since I had watched them, but I forget, was he notorious for like doing a shitload of retakes or like getting it perfect in one shot? I know he was a perfectionist.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know.
I swear I read
either way on that one.
Yeah, or maybe I'm like muddling it up, and it's like in the middle where he didn't like to do them, but if something was wrong, he would force everybody. Like, wasn't he really hard on the like everybody involved? Like he demanded perfection or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was kind of a tyrant of a director, I would say.
Well, it worked. He got good results.
Yeah, it produced good movies. But yeah, I picked these 4 movies mostly because Rope, Strangers on a Train, North by Northwest are 3 of my favorites, and Psycho is just like, we gotta watch Psycho. That one's important.
Well, yeah, that's like the Casablanca of the bunch.
The other, like the big ones, some of the bigger ones I left out are the other Jimmy Stewart ones, but I'm like, but Rope is the best one. So
Rope is so
it's not the most well known one, but I would say Rope is definitely my favorite of the Jimmy Stewart ones, as opposed to Rear Window. I think it's usually, or Vertigo are 2 of the ones that are held up the most.
Vertigo sounds familiar.
I mean, that one, I think, replaced Citizen Kane on the AFI's greatest movie of all time poll.
Okay. What's it about? I mean, loosely, obviously.
I mean, mostly it's about a dude. Jimmy Stewart gets obsessed with this woman who looks like someone who died, and then there's, plot twists. And also he has vertigo.
Yeah, as you do. Okay.
Yeah. It's way more psychological and it has less of Hitchcock's humor in it, I would say, at least in terms of the dialogue, which is one of the reasons I don't like it as much.
Sure.
But
and I mean, Rope is like all dialogue. It's like 100% dialogue.
Uh-huh. That's not true. There's a lot of filmmaking because with those contiguous shots, but it goes from day to night over the course of the movie. So every time the camera isn't looking at those clouds, they are moving them off screen.
Yeah. No, there was some great shots. One of the ones that I remembered that I liked, that I remember specifically was I think the camera is like you're seeing stuff from a side view and it's just like focused in on the trunk, I guess, whatever the actual term is that they use. And then you just see stuff going on like kind of in the background for a little bit. It was real nice.
Yeah, like Hitchcock was really into using the camera as like the audience perspective as being voyeuristic and interested in particular things in the room that aren't necessarily like what the people in the room are doing or interested in.
Yeah.
That's definitely an ongoing thing. The other thing he does a lot is like this idea of like there's the elevator pitch for the crime, and then the plot of the movie is not really that playing out straight or well necessarily, but that's sort of like the get you in the door thing. With
What do
like
you
with
mean?
Rope, the perfect murder ideas in some of these movies,
Okay.
like in Rope of two people murdering their friend, Strangers on a Train, two people meeting on a train and committing each other's murders. Those sort of things. Like there's another one, Dial M for Murder, that does the Strangers on a Train thing a little more, where like the two guys actually make a deal,
Yeah, they're both
and
into it.
then yeah, but and then that one does a weird funny thing where it's like that's a 3D movie shot in 3D, and he all he really does with the 3D gimmick in that is put stuff in front of them talking to like give the audience separation from these two murderers making their deal.
Weird.
But like you're in there, but you're not.
Yeah.
You're just looking at them.
Okay. That's interesting.
And like I got to see that in a theater with like modern 3D technology instead of red and blue garbage.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience. Also, that movie has a hilarious detective who has a funny mustache at the
Nice.
end. It's really what makes the movie. But yeah, Rope is just fucking great, and it's just such a good like. I can't think of a movie that's like, yeah, and this is an example of some guy's bullshit coming back to bite him. In terms of Jimmy Stewart's character,
I mean, it's like, like two completely different things, but the comparison that comes to mind is like Wolf of Wall Street. Like, it would have gone a lot better if they weren't all doing coke. This would have gone a lot better if he wasn't so, yo, we're gonna put him in the thing, and we're gonna invite like all these people that are gonna make this spicy. It was too spicy.
I mean, that was like the whole reason he wanted to kind of do it, though, was to like show off to Jimmy
Oh.
Stewart's character.
Oh yeah. Like 100%.
It's like-
But that's just what.
Yeah,
Like, they technically did do the perfect murder. They just, still real good. And I don't know. I think watching it through, I really expected it was his professor, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I expected the professor to agree with him. Sort of. I guess. I don't know why. I don't know if that's founded, if that's like if that would be like a modern take on things, if a film would do that, but I expected it for some reason. Then of course he's like, "Oh no." I should be careful what I say to impressionable people.
Yeah.
But everything was so
Also,
good.
just there's just so much in like expressions in that movie.
Yeah.
Where like Jimmy Stewart's figuring it out, and he's just like looking at things and thinking, it's like this is something is.
Yeah.
And those two guys like their own weird ways of tilting off in their own ways.
Yeah, the facial expression, like and just delivery, like just intonations and all that stuff, and it was just super good. Like for
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's one of those, it's almost kind of like a Destination Wedding, where like sort of nothing happens but also a ton of shit happens, but it's like it's just all that juicy dialogue, which I think this
Yeah.
kind of it hit at a good time, because I had seen Destination Wedding, I had seen like there was an episode of BoJack Horseman, and literally the whole thing is him just monologuing for 30 minutes. Like, that's the whole episode, and it's great. So I already kind of was like, I was kind of feeling this a little bit. I'm like, this is a cool thing. Like, I enjoy this concept. I mean, I haven't encountered it done poorly, and I think watching this done bad would be a nightmare. But it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, Hitchcock had done like another movie similar, which is Lifeboat, which takes place entirely in a single lifeboat.
Okay.
People are stuck in the ocean.
Like Othello.
God damn it.
Oh, it's my favorite callback.
But yeah, so he had sort of done this kind of thing before, but I think like Rope is the better. This is the apex of him doing that thing, for sure. And this is based on I think Lifeboat is too. They're both based on plays.
Rope was also like a play.
Yeah, it was a play. Yes.
I
mean, 1929 play.
Ooh. Yeah, because Psycho that's a novel, right?
Yeah, it's a book.
Okay. Man, I didn't. I mean, it makes sense, especially earlier when you were talking about like just with the takes. That makes it more play-like. That makes, yeah.
There's like near the end, there's like one hard cut in the middle of a scene. That's like pretty jarring if you're paying attention for that at all. But otherwise, he's generally doing the cuts by like zooming the camera into someone's back.
Yeah.
And then there's just that piece of rope, man. It's just a good like, this rope matters. This is important. We're gonna put this right here. And like the characters are doing it intentionally too. And then you have this knowledge. You know the thing that's hanging over this whole party that none of the a lot of the characters don't, and some do. Yeah, he's just such a dick. Like, Brandon.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, let's put all the food on it. It doesn't make sense to put the food on this piece of furniture, but let's do it. Yeah. We've got to call it all the attention to it. We've got to put big flashing neon signs pointing at this thing.
Yeah. It's like, it's so much. Do they?
Yeah.
I forget. Do they play with the idea that like Brandon wants to be caught? I honestly forget if that comes up, but I feel like he would, like Jimmy Stewart's character would mention it.
I mean, he definitely wants Jimmy Stewart's character to know. He wants him to catch him specifically. Yeah.
Well, I know
for him.
Yeah, like I know he wanted to be. Yeah, because he wants the validation, right? Like, man, you took my concept and you applied it, and it's so great. I'm so proud of you. You killed someone. Good job.
Yeah. Philip doesn't want anyone to know.
Philip is very uneasy about the matter.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have committed a murder.
Yeah. Imagine.
Seems like there's some regret in it.
Well, art takes sacrifices sometimes.
The other thing about the production that I know is that Philip's when he's playing the piano, like, he's trying to mime to particular piano music they had, but he never did it right in any of their takes, so they redid the music to match how his fingers were moving.
Okay. That's weird. I mean,
that makes sense to me. It's like,
yeah.
it's the same reason that like generally you get better animation if you animate to the way to the voice line rather than fitting a voice line into animation.
Oh yeah. I guess.
It's just that
Yeah.
same principle.
So the actor couldn't play piano, right? He was just like miming it, or could he
Yeah.
play piano like enough to kind of do it? Something.
I don't. It's one or the other. Like he wasn't good enough at piano to nail.
Okay.
What he-
I feel
what
like
they
that'd
wanted
have to
him
be.
to.
I feel like someone who doesn't know how to play piano trying to like mime it would
Yeah.
just be fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm like, if they put the
way
music to
the way
that,
Hitchcock described is like he got his fingers were close, but they just weren't correct.
mm-hmm.
But that's also like Hitchcock cares about that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's like for all these movies, and then like reading even just a bit about some of them. That's
Yeah.
you get that
It's
impression.
like that real attention to small details. Cuz like it when you're watching the movie, like maybe you don't care, but like that stuff stands out.
I mean, it's like my dad and
Or
us
can
mowing the
stand
lawn on a dead end road. Nobody's gonna see it,
Yeah.
but he has to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So really,
It's a good way
yeah,
to put it.
my dad's the Alfred Hitchcock of lawn mowing, I guess.
So, next we have Strangers on a Train.
The main character is really unsettling.
Who, Guy?
Yeah.
You find him unsettling?
Guy is the one who's like, yo, let's murder people.
No, Guy's the tennis player.
Oh.
He's the one
Okay.
who's
I am then referring
Yeah, you
to Bruno.
Bruno. Yeah.
Bruno's unsettling.
Yeah.
I mean, Guy is also unsettling. Tennis
Like
player.
one of my favorite
Ugh.
moments of this is just like after Bruno has committed the murder and he goes to find Guy and Guy's like at his door and Bruno's across the street going, "Hey, Guy, over here, Guy."
Yeah, that's like the scene that I have
Fuck.
in my mind also. He's just he's a
It's
creepy
like
dude.
not yeah. I find this one fun because it's like imagine the perfect murder except one of the guys is not into
Yeah, they definitely could have both gotten away with it, but someone decided to bitch out a little bit.
someone like really it was one person came up with a perfect plan for a murder that required a stranger and the stranger's like, "Are you fucking crazy?"
Yeah. I mean,
And then
like
and then the other way to look at it is like you're just which I think this is the way the trailer sells it, which is if you're just on a train and some fucking evil stranger comes up to you and gets you involved in this fucking murder plot that just you don't really have any control over, but suddenly you've just got this evil person involved in your life just because you talked to some stranger on a train.
yeah. Yeah.
Although one of my favorite parts of this movie is just the whole thing of I've got to go stop this murder, but first I have to win this tennis match.
Yeah. Yeah, and that sequence was great. Like just how they filmed the match, I don't know, was like
Yeah, it's like the audience's
silly.
heads going back and forth.
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
The whole all the tension. This Hitchcock is just so good at building up and maintaining tension in his movies.
the shot I was you know, I've gotten a little better, I think, at pointing out or figuring out stuff that I'm like, this is something that people are. If I go on the Wikipedia page, this is gonna have like 8 pages written about it. And that point was when he kills the chick and her glasses fall, and there's like that shot in the lens. I'm like, there's this. I no doubt in my mind that this is something that film classes like just get rock hard over. Sure enough, absolutely.
My favorite shot in the movie is when at the end with the carousel going round and round and that old guy climbing under it.
Yeah,
And the like cameras somehow like is like looking up at him because they
Yeah.
literally like dug a hole to put the camera in, so they could shoot up for that shot. That shot is fucking insane.
Wasn't it actually like going around like that? If he
Yes.
like if he like messed up a little, he's just fucked.
Yep.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Alfred Hitchcock is a psycho. Yeah, that was a hell of a scene.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't even think about like the camera placement. Maybe that's probably something I just like take for granted in like a modern film. Like, oh, the camera's
It's
under
like-
him. Okay.
It's also because cameras are much smaller these days.
Yeah. Yeah. As opposed to giant tanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Stranger on the Train, it's just like it kind of feels perfect to me. It's like just
Really?
it's just got for what it's trying to do in terms of just being a thriller about someone who's hapless. Like, it's pretty fucking great, and it has that tennis part.
The tennis part. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I didn't find myself as interested. I think it's because like in my heart I wanted it to be two guys who agreed to murder the other person. Like I want him to be like, "Are you for real? Like you're not? Are you a cop? All right, let's do it." And then just like, you know, do a little swap
That might
and
have been a
pop.
little much for 1950s. Although I don't know, it's Dial M for Murder is much closer to that. So I think one of them like there's a little more like he is still conning the other person into committing his murder for him, but and I also think it's just it's not a swapsy. It's one murder. Like he cons a stranger into committing a murder for him. I think. If I'm
Gotcha.
remembering right. And then the detective figures it out anyway. So
Well, yeah,
again,
that makes
1950s.
sense. Yeah.
Look,
They're not ready for the bad
bad
guys
people
to
have to get punished.
Yeah.
Like you can have all the bad people you want, but they have to get punished at the end.
Yeah, and see that's why like again, like just not being used to that era of filmmaking. I keep expecting it to maybe have like a sort of twisty ending. It's like, nah, it all gets resolved. Which, of course, like after discussing, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So next we have North by Northwest.
It's like my least favorite concept in a movie ever.
Wow.
Kind of. I like. It's sort of the
Your
same.
least favorite concept is a movie that takes place in a bunch of different locales, and then things happen.
My least favorite.
Honestly,
concept?
that's how the trailer pitch. That's how Hitchcock pitches it in the trailer.
Really?
In the trailer, he's just like, and Cary Grant goes to all these different places.
Oh my god. They go places and do
Like-
things.
Because I mean, there's just there's this fact of where he's framed for a murder, but so he has to leave. But the important thing is all the locales we go to. This cinematic tour of America. Also, Hitchcock's other title for this movie was "The Man Up Lincoln's Nose."
Okay. Yeah, that checks out.
Because this movie was like, this movie is a classic like action thriller, but also it's Hitchcock, like it's a joke.
Yeah. Um
It's, it works.
no, the thing that really pisses me off, and it's been a very, very long time since I've seen what was the first Bourne movie? Bourne Identity?
Yeah.
Um I feel like when I think about that series, it's the same thing. Like in the beginning when they think he's someone else and like he can't get any answers and it just stresses me out. Like just ask a question, get an answer, and it doesn't happen for like so long. It finally after they like explain what's going on, like then my heart rate finally goes down and I can like actually relax. But up until that point, I just don't like it. I don't know. It just makes me uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. I'm like, he's clearly not this person, and no one's listening to. He said he's not the person. He can prove. They're not listening to him. Someone help! Like, it just stresses me out so much. I was pretty upset for a large chunk of that film, but it was well done. I just. God damn it.
That just
Please.
got under your skin.
Yeah.
A mistaken identity is too much for you.
He's not the guy and nobody's listening to him. What if that happened to me?
But he is the guy.
What if
are you
someone-
talking? He is the guy.
No.
At the end of the day, is he not the guy?
He's not the guy.
He is the guy.
But he's also
Who else
not.
is the guy? Nobody else is the guy. He is the guy.
That's because they made a guy up. This is not fair.
And then it became him.
It's bullshit.
It's happenstance, but that's what happened.
Well, I don't like
They weren't
it.
wrong to think it was him.
It's because I put myself in
at
his
the end of the day,
situation.
when you add up all the facts, he is the guy.
I can't help but put myself there, and I get so stressed thinking about like me trying to convince people that like no, I'm not this whatever the hell you think I am. Like I'm just a dude. Like I went to get groceries. They're like no. You fucking started a war and you stole all the stuff, or you did something, or you're a spy. I'm like no, help. Like I don't. Please. I don't like it. Ugh. But then he figures like it gets it out of him. It gets better. After that point, it's good. Him infiltrating the house was pretty great.
Yeah. That shot of him climbing up is pretty burned in my brain. The classic scene for this movie though is he's just gets dropped off at the bus stop, and then a plane comes to try and shoot him.
Yeah.
Just like that set piece. Like, you don't really need any explanation for this. This scene can just exist on its own. It doesn't. Any of the details of the plot really don't matter.
Yeah.
It's just, this is cool.
Just good action stuff, and then he just steals that guy's truck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I was so sure that happened, and then as I started saying it, I'm like, maybe this was one of those trucker films I watched. I can't remember. Like, I don't know. The ending is so... Like, I went back because I like... This was one of the ones, I watched it however long ago, and I just couldn't quite picture what happened, and then as soon as I started looking, I'm like, oh right, it's this one. And I checked out the ending again, and I'd totally forgotten that like it just goes straight through. Like there's 10 seconds left. I'm like, what are we doing here? And then it does that weird like what's his name? What does he call it? Mrs. He says like Mrs. whatever.
Mrs. Townsend?
Yeah, is that what he calls her?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he like pulls her into the bed. And then there's like that gratuitous shot of a train going into a small hole. Like, I'm pretty dense, but even I picked up on that one.
1950s.
Yeah. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Did he have to like? Did he get like? Did they get shit for that, or did it go? Did it like slide through?
I don't know. I probably slid through. I mean, we're only a year away from Psycho, and think of how much more Psycho. Like Psycho is kind of scandalous for its time.
Yeah.
But
No,
like,
this.
I mean, really, he's just showing a train going through a hole. It's fine. Whatever.
I could just like someone tries to call him out. I like, what are you talking about? They're on a train. The train went through a tunnel. Get your mind out of the gutter.
I can't help what your perverted thoughts are. It has nothing to do with me. But also, Hitchcock would also call himself celibate a bunch, which is hilarious. Not true, but it's a thing he would say. I've heard him say it. It's like, I wouldn't stream of such a thing. Just giving the audience what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also his explanation for the way Psycho turns it up. It's just, he's like, yeah, audiences, they younger people, they needed more than the scene of just two people kissing is like really not, they're not into it anymore.
Yeah.
That just seems old fashioned to them.
This one, the movie as a whole, also kind of had the. Good Lord, what Bogart film was it? What's the super convoluted one that nobody knows what the plot is?
The Big Sleep.
Yeah.
It's not that nobody doesn't know what the plot was. It's that nobody knows who killed that chauffeur.
Okay, but also like the plot
butler.
is just straight confusing.
I know, but mostly, it's just that that other guy got murdered in an unrelated way.
You know it mostly, and how many times have you seen it?
A lot.
Yeah, see. But it had a similar feel. Like I got get like a James Bond feel from it pretty much, and it shared that like this film style of humor, and then like the spy stuff, just how all of that was handled, had that tone, which was like I find enjoyable. I like old James Bond stuff, at least the Sean Connery ones.
I don't, but that's
Yeah.
old James Bond movies put me to sleep, except The Man with the Golden Gun, which is offensive and terrible, but it's like one of my favorite bad movies.
See, I haven't.
But that one has Christopher Lee in it, which makes a
Okay.
big difference.
Yeah, I've only seen.
James Bond is basically the villain in that movie, or another villain. There's a villain,
That's pretty great.
There's James Bond, and then there's Christopher Lee who kills the real villain. And then like the movie's like, oh, I guess we also wanted him to be the bad guy, so I guess he's like trying to do bad stuff too. But like up to that point, all he wanted to do is kill James Bond. He has like a fun house with a small person who is his butler, and he hunts people. He also has 3 nipples. There's a plot point in that movie.
Great. 10. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe I.
James Bond impersonates him by putting on a fake nipple.
Oh my God! What year was this? Which year is this one?
Man with the Golden Gun. I don't. 70s, I want to say.
Okay. I mean, that checks out.
Oh yeah, 74.
All right. Yeah,
and also it has the racist American cop who's, I think, he was introduced in the previous Bond movie. This is Roger Moore Bond.
Okay.
Everybody's favorite.
See,
That one and that movie really is a collection of scenes. Like it's fucking it's a mess. That movie's a mess.
When I saw the Sean Connery Bond films, it just was with like maybe if I'd seen them on my own or tried on my own, I would have like not been into it at all. But I was just with a solid group of people, so despite the films being ridiculous, we like worked with it.
Oh.
There was a lot of stuff.
I mostly
flying back
find
and forth.
them boring. Like they just the pacing and the moment to moment stuff is too slow.
I mean,
Like
we
the thing
filled
that
in
makes
the-
North by Northwest. Yeah, that's fair. The thing that makes North by Northwest so good is like Cary Grant is always talking. Like the snappy dialogue and like how quick that stuff is
Yeah.
what makes it also like hold up really well, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it has that. It yeah, the dialogue being fast certainly. That was true of like. I mean, kind of how I felt with. I guess a fair chunk of the film so far. Yeah, I expect them
Yeah.
to be slower, and they're like the ones that I've enjoyed have had pretty
You know,
quick.
there are a lot of good old
dialogue.
movies. Like the surprising thing about them is how like fast the dialogue is.
Yeah.
Like people just talk quickly in that era. Is a thing.
Yeah.
And
Then we got Psycho.
Then there was Psycho. Yeah. Now we're into the 60s. And Psycho is like definitely like audiences have learned, like it's like Alfred Hitchcock trying to stay a step ahead of audiences who have learned how to have been watching movies and like know certain things.
Yeah.
So like it's like a lot of what happens in Psycho is like it's not necessarily concerned with its own plot. It's concerned with like how the audience is going to react to things. Like, oh, Janet Leigh's the star and she stole this money, so it's all going to be about Janet Leigh and this money.
Yeah. I do remember seeing something about that. Like how it's like, what? It's not her.
Well, also like she's this big star. It's all the marketing is around her. And just like the money thing, like audiences trained. Oh, she stole the money. The money matters.
Yeah. And
What's
then
going to
they just
happen to the money?
Throw it all away.
And then it just goes into the swamp, and you're like, what is going on?
Everything I know is a lie.
Yeah. Though I do think, like, as a movie to watch today, the big problem with Psycho just is that last section at the end where the psychiatrist comes out to explain it all. Like, if you just cut out that part,
Yeah.
it would be a better movie.
The
But you do need that last refrain of, I wouldn't hurt a fly. They'll see. They'll see and they'll
Yeah.
know. That part is so good.
yeah. I like it, but I would it confused me. Like I don't know. I suppose that maybe that's part of it. Like it's open to my interpretation, right? That probably makes it that you know what? I'm gonna roll with that. Talking about it now that I'm saying it, because you know by default we'll find the creepiest thing to us to fill it in with. Yeah. The one part that I didn't understand in the film is she gets murdered in the shower, and there's like a cut to the newspaper, not a cut, maybe pan cut, I forget which it was. They show the newspaper filled with money, and then all of a sudden it is like blood, there's blood, mother, blood. I don't understand how he saw the blood. Like from the window?
What do you mean?
Like when he's saying there's blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you see it from though?
Didn't he look in the room at that point?
No. I recall it just like cutting into the house, and then he says blood. Unless you know what? Wait, did he?
There
like,
might have been
walk
blood on
in?
his. I think he might have been reacting to the blood on his hands.
Oh. Okay. So like on a first
and like
watch,
presumably like the blood on his mother.
okay. So on a first watch, you're like, oh, he like saw the blood. Okay. But looking back, yeah, I suppose if he's also the one who did it and all that, yeah, I didn't even. You know what?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that angle.
Mm. But like
I was literally assuming that someone else killed her, even though. Okay, yeah,
you know,
fantastic.
his personality switches back to him.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
He's reacting to seeing blood everywhere. Or on himself, or whatever.
Man, that's why my standards for movies are so low. I'm just so stupid that like. Oh.
The thing I've heard Hitchcock has said about this movie, he's like, the thing that he cared about is just that the movie made people scream in the theater. Like that was
And it did.
the thing that he really, yeah.
Nice. I mean, was the shower scene or like which was that the big one?
The shower
Okay.
scene specifically, yeah.
And it did make people scream. Okay. I guess like, are there do you go to horror films like in the theater ever? Like a fresh one?
Yeah.
Do people scream? Do people freak out at all, or are they a little more like maybe gasp and they're not as reactive?
Yeah, it's not like screaming. It's not really a thing.
Okay.
Well, except that small child that I was in the theater when I saw The Conjuring. And turns out if you bring a small child to a movie about where a mother wants to kill her children, maybe that little small child, that's a little too much for him.
Yeah.
It's a little.
Yeah. No,
it's a little
that sounds
intense.
right.
He wanted to escape. He didn't want to be there anymore.
Okay. Because I was like, I
He
don't.
shouldn't have been there.
I've definitely, like people laugh at stuff, of course.
Yeah.
Like seeing Star Wars Episode 7, like that had the opening night. What's the word I'm looking for? That opening night energy where people are like clapping and fucking cheering and stuff. I guess I don't think I've ever seen a horror film in theaters or anything even close to one. So I can't say that I've ever heard someone like full on scream or to even
Yeah.
react that something close to it.
Yeah. Like, movies kind of just don't even try.
They don't push it
Like,
as far.
I don't know what you could do to make audiences scream in that way anymore. But I also just
Yeah.
don't think movies try a lot. Like, just because to really shock, like usually it's just bad jump scares. And
Yeah,
people
and
go,
see, that's what I'm thinking. Like that was the first thing that came to mind. Like if someone's screaming in the theater, like it's probably a jump scare. I don't know what would. Is there? Do you think there's anything? What do you think the next step?
I don't
would
know.
be?
Like, I don't think you could do. Like, I think you can disturb audiences. Like, you could show things that are just like,
Yeah.
fuck. But to
mean-
get that visceral reaction, I really don't know what you could do.
Like you think we maybe just like past a point, like we're actually desensitized enough
Maybe.
that we. I mean, I suppose.
I mean, the right audience would probably still scream.
Oh
and
yeah, I
stuff.
mean, yeah. Of
I don't know.
course.
I don't know what would make me scream.
I mean, we just get a bunch of like 6-year-olds and throw them in a room and like turn on any horror movie.
You just, I mean, you can put on fucking. I mean, if you want to make people scream, you just put on like something they like, and then they'll scream in joy.
Yeah,
That's easy.
I mean, I suppose like. I feel like we might actually be desensitized enough, as far as
I'm
like,
probably being a little too, cynical about it. There probably are plenty of movies that make certain audiences scream, but it also depends on. It very much depends on the audience. I
Yeah.
would say, like, the weird thing is like if you go to if the audience that's going to a movie considers it a serious movie, like a piece of art, they generally won't react at all.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being stereotypical about it, like white audiences, much more prone to just not reacting. Whereas, You get a good rowdy black audience. You'll have a good time. It's a good time at the theater.
I
That's
mean,
what I'll say.
like,
They get into it.
that sounds no different than most churches I've been to. So
yeah, they're ready to wear their emotions on their sleeve and actually react to stuff.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
I mean,
So that is.
that I'm imagining.
But I don't know about screaming.
I'm imagining what a
experience.
reactive emotional audience would have been like to see like the Phantom Thread with. If someone just like was going all out.
Yeah. I say in movies like that, it's usually like there's some part where I laugh incredibly loudly and nobody else is laughing.
Wow. So like people go home.
It's usually
people go home and it's like there was some dude in the theater just fucking lost it. He's like 4 rows behind me.
That was like when I saw Midsommar. There's this one part. I fucking lost it.
What part? Is it? I mean, if it's because that one's still fairly new. So is it like spoilery?
Yeah, it's a spoiler.
Okay.
There's just like a dude gives a face is like, I don't want any part of this anymore. Well, actually, no. I think the thing that actually made me laugh the loudest though was that it just cut back to a thing that was supposed to be disturbing, but like we left that scene and came back like 5 times, and that like we were still there. I just found hilarious.
Was like, the thing you cut to like that woman's face?
It was a supposed to be a disturbing sex scene.
Yeah,
So
I don't.
People have seen the movie know what it is.
Okay. I mean,
Again, it was supposed to be disturbing, but I just found it hilarious that the movie just like kept cutting back and forth between. It's like, we're still here, really.
Yeah. And see that one, like I just read like I don't even think I read the Wikipedia synopsis. I just read like a very brief thing. I'm like, I'm out. This was too much. Reading this was actually too much. I'm out. They're putting things in their mouths that shouldn't be put there, and I don't want any part like.
Again, my problem with that movie is that I didn't find it that disturbing. I found it mostly boring.
Well, okay, but that's fine. Not every like
insulting.
You strike me as the type of person who could like, I don't know, walk in with like a bowl of pasta to basically any film, and like no issue. Or even cereal, perhaps. You might be like a cereal champion.
Pretty desensitized at this point.
Actually, that would be fucking legendary.
Well,
you go into Midsommar.
Generally I get a little more excited when there's a lot of gore. Like I'm like, yeah, you're doing stuff.
Okay, but imagine the following: you go to Midsommar, right? And everybody else, I feel like a lot of people, I've heard a fair amount of people say that they were very disturbed by the film. Like they found it disturbing. And I think mostly that's true. Like for the general population, like people are going to be like, what the fuck?
I mean, they did carve a bear into a vagina. And then stick a dude in it.
That makes everything involved worse. But okay, so imagine you're at the film, right? And you're like there and people are being like disturbed, and you have a big old bowl of like frosted flakes in your hand, and you're just like chowing away, and you're like, oh my god. Just a bowl of cereal.
The problem is, for a bowl of cereal to last the length of that fucking movie, it would have to be fucking gigantic.
Well, you have the box with you. Like you put enough milk in the bowl,
still,
you can get a couple
that's a
rounds.
long movie. It's like 2.5 hours.
I mean, you bust it out
cereal
like,
that slow.
Oh, you don't. I mean, you don't eat it. You don't do it immediately. You bring in like a quart of milk from the store. Make sure it's nice and cold. Then you like pour it when you're ready. Family size box. Really do it up. Ask if anyone wants some. Ugh. Yeah. Those poor people that saw Psycho. Couldn't eat cereal the next day, probably.
I think
Strikes
there
me
were
as
people that walked out of Psycho when it aired.
that doesn't
After that
surprise me.
scene. Although I know my dad wasn't allowed to see The Birds when it came out because the Catholic Church had denounced it or whatever.
Really?
So his mom
Why?
wouldn't let him see it.
Why that one?
I don't know. There are probably plenty of other movies, but that's the only one that he's told me about anecdotally. But because the reason he told me that is because my experience with that movie was me and a friend watching it like when we were kids, and we were just howling with laughter the whole time. Like this movie that like was too just he wasn't allowed to see when he was because it was too disturbing or whatever, too offensive, and like these two kids are just watching it and just like cannot stop like just howling with laughter. Like it's just so funny.
Wow.
Like
I mean, is that's just the one where the birds are attacking, right?
yeah, birds start attacking people.
Okay.
It's a up to that point it's also just actually funny. It's like just a comedy, but we were laughing at it because of the effects and just like
Not
how
great.
it
That
looked.
don't hold up well.
Well, it just like that's clearly a fake bird,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And but also just like the image of a bird like pecking at someone. It's just funny. They might be like it's like theoretically disturbing. Their people are bleeding and stuff, and all hell is breaking loose. But also it's just fucking birds attacking people. There's an innate humor to it, which is the big thing I will say about Hitchcock is like I feel like the part of the reason his thrillers work is he's kind of sees them as comedies. There's like the innate humor of it is kind of the point. That's like the thrill of it for him is like people react to this in a certain way, but also it's just silly.
Yeah. So he knows what he's doing, basically.
Yeah. Yes. That's why he was able to do thrillers over and over and over and over again very well. Like he made a lot of really good thrillers.
Mm-hmm.
And these were only 4 of them. There are others.
Yeah. No. It. I didn't know like how many of those he did. I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Also
that makes sense.
he made a shit ton of movies. Like people don't even really remember his silent era or like talk about it, but he was making movies in the before sound was a thing.
Yeah.
We didn't really get his like signature directorial style until later though.
Like Sean Connery and his accent. Dude, he didn't have it in James Bond. We had to fill in for him.
They might have been toning it down,
I mean, maybe. We took it up to 11, and we all thought it was hilarious, except for one person who hated everyone by the end of the night.
I don't remember. Have you heard the actor who plays McNulty's real accent yet?
No, I don't think so.
It's it sounds like a fake accent. The way he actually talks.
The way he actually talks?
Yes.
I mean, what accent is it? Like what region?
I forget exactly where he's from, but he's British.
Oh, okay.
Where's Tommy West? Yeah, he's from England.
Weird.
I don't know the correct descriptor for his accent other than that it's ridiculous.
I mean,
It's
is it like
what you would do if you were making a fake accent?
Is it?
You'll just have to listen to it. You'll just have to listen to it.
Yeah, like
podcast.
immediately after this, you know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
is it like Hugh Laurie, or is it more separated? I guess.
I think that's close.
But that same level of like, what? I mean, just the
Yeah.
fact that he's British, like I would have never guessed. Much
There's
like
so many
Hugh
people
Laurie.
in The Wire who are British. Like Stringer Bell, super British.
What?
Yeah, Idris Elba, very British.
No, he's from Baltimore.
Nope. But his accent doesn't sound like a cartoon character, at least.
Oh man, I'm so excited to freaking listen to him now. I would have never known.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hitchcock
Psycho
is good.
is a good movie. Yeah.
As
The
a
famous scene, honestly, not my favorite part of the movie. Like, it doesn't have that strong
yeah, no,
of
it's
impact on me. And
it's
visually, I think it doesn't. It hasn't aged great. Like the thing that the music is really selling it on that one. Like that those high strings, like it is being sold.
yeah.
And then, like the other big thing is like the other murder with the detective guy. The fact that like the kill is shot from above
Yeah.
is like, it's like to disguise the fact that it's Norman killing him, and to not let the audience know that it's disguising it necessarily. Like he had to think about, how can I not show the murderer without like really tipping my hand that I'm not showing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
like focused on that.
Isn't just like super focused on who the killer is.
If you had to okay, well, I had a question, but it's been replaced with another one first. I see that he did Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Is that like Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Like the one where they're both agents for separate things and they're like sent to assassinate each other? Because I saw was there a remake? I guess if it was a remake. Because I know the one where they're like separate.
I think that it's like, I think his is just a screwball comedy.
Okay, yeah, that's what it looks like. I guess. Yep. Okay. Well, that's kind of disappointing, but like also not surprising. Anyway, original question: if you had to recommend like a handful of other films of his to check out.
The remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much, which is another Jimmy Stewart one. He remade his own movie.
I was gonna say like
That's how long he was making movies. He just like
Yeah.
straight up remade one of his own movies.
that's pretty awesome.
I think he might have done it for some other movie. I don't remember. That's a big one. Like Rear Window. The other is another Jimmy Stewart one. Birds. I just think The Birds is hilarious. And it's purposely hilarious. Like it is. There's a lot of comedy up into the part where it's like becomes horror or whatever.
Yeah.
Dial In for Murder is fun. Particularly, like, what makes it fun is like the detective at the end is definitely a character.
All right.
So that's a handful.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, further watching for me, or I guess anyone who's interested, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a podcast. So, you can email us saltcirclepodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter @saltcirclepod. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify @saltcirclepodcast. You can find our episodes hosted at anchor.fm/saltcircle. And I'm on Twitter @comicpanels.
And I'm on Twitter at bean_LP. Man. You ready to talk magic?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. 3 hours. Let's go.
Oh, God help us. I concede.